Greetings, music fans. This is Peter Sco for Music is a Journey. We're going to do another little short episode today. Still not quite getting around to episode 40 yet, but as I keep telling you, it's coming. Alright, today's short episode, we'll just talk about a few little topics. And, well, you can see the moose back here with the maple leaf sweater on. That means the topics today are basically going to be Canadian related. Now, very sadly, the first topic for today is about the death of singer Phil Naro. I have this poster here that I got with a CD that I ordered some years back. So Phil was actually born in the United States. However, when after graduating from high school, he moved up to Toronto where he joined a band called Chain Reaction, and I think recorded a couple of songs or a couple of albums with them. I actually already did a video about Phil Naro's career, so I'll put the link to that up around here somewhere for a little bit more detail. But what I find very interesting about Phil was that he moved between the US and Canada often. So after Chain Reaction, he went back to New York where he joined with Billy Sheehan in his band Talas and was the vocalist for that. But when David Lee Roth left Van Halen to form his own band, he wanted Billy to be his bass player. And so Phil moved back to Toronto, where he then took over the vocal spot available on Coney Hatch because their short-term former singer, Kevin Labrie, wasn't really working out. So he left. Kevin Labrie, James Labrie, same person. Okay, but anyway, so Phil was singing with Coney Hatch. He also sang backing vocals on a Lee Aaron album or two. And then over the time, I think he went back to the US to be the lead vocalist on Peter Criss's solo album of the time. So I already talked about Phil in the previous video, like I said, but just for review, I first got to know about Phil because he was invited to sing on a Corva Stone album. Colin Tench, I keep mentioning him from time to time. He's the whole reason why this video series started in the first place. Anyway, he invited him to sing on the Corva Stone 2 album. And again, he shares lead vocal duties with Peter Jones on Colin Tench Project, Hair and a G-String, the first Colin Tench Project album. I then heard about him playing in Unified Past, an American progressive metal band. This was their final album, and Phil is singing lead vocals on there. Phil was also singing with the Canadian progressive rock band Druckfarben. I talked about these. I even played samples of music from these here before, and same with Unified Past. So you can find that in some older Music is a Journey episodes. Ed Bernard, guitarist, multi-instrumentalist actually for Druckfarben on his solo album. Phil sings on a track or two there as well. And a band called Simply They, also a Canadian band, kind of a melodic rock, a little bit progressive band. Phil takes lead vocals here. Phil, one of his older bands was 24 Karat Pure. That's what it's called, right? 24 Karat Pure. Yeah. 24 Karat is the band, Pure is the album. I picked this one up used through Discogs. And one of his more recent projects, one of his more recent outputs in the last couple of years was a guitarist whose last name is Myron. He had an album called Lacrimosa. Pretty good, solid, heavy hard rock album with Phil on vocals there. He was also singing lead vocals with D-Drive and another band here, Blood Red Flower. Phil actually sang with many bands on, sometimes just as a guest, sometimes as the official lead vocalist, but as you can see, I picked up quite a lot of Phil stuff, so I do really like his vocal style. It's one of those 80s rock, hard rock, the kind of, raspy edge to the voice, the power in the vocals, but the ability also to sing beautiful melodies. I often thought that he would be in the same class as singers like Joe Lynn Turner or Glenn Hughes, being able to sing a variety of rock styles anyway. So, yeah, I'd heard that Phil actually had a case of cancer back in 2013, which was taken care of. I think he was receiving treatment for it. However, word came that he had cancer of the tongue, I think it was, and that came up just not that long ago, like maybe 2 or 3 months ago. I heard about this, but I wasn't sure if it was a rumor or if it was really true. And then just here, like May 3rd, Nick Katona of Melodic Revolution Records, the record label which has released some of these albums here, posted on the Facebook page that Phil has passed away. So that is sad news. I mean, he was born in late 50s anyway, so he was still too young, really, too young, and he still had a lot of things going for him. I think there was even talk about Talas putting out a new album with Phil on vocals last year. I'm not sure what came out of that, but anyway, it was very sad news. And I've had a little bit of an exchange with Phil, like, because when I was going to feature his albums on my on this YouTube channel, I asked him if I could have permission to use the music, and at the time he said he couldn't grant it, and basically because he's not the one who has that power to grant permission to use music. I had to actually contact individual bands or record labels if I wanted to use some of the music. But anyway, Phil was very gracious about it, and later on, let me see, I think it was the Myron CD, no, the Simply They CD, he actually sent me when an order of one of the other albums, which I ordered from his website, didn't show up. And I finally contacted him and told him, and I asked if I could get another copy sent to me, and then he sent the Simply They CD. So, yeah, I had a small bit of contact anyway with Phil. So, he is in that kind of universe of people that I got to know through Colin Tench. Some of those people I'm regularly in touch with and regularly feature them on this YouTube channel. Phil was a little bit more farther out there, you know, but anyway, he was a very talented person, and obviously played with a lot of bands, was requested to sing on a lot of albums, so it is, of course, very sad news to hear that he passed away. Again, too young, really. I think he still had more he could have done. Anyway, so moving away from that sad topic, let's get on to I have 3 other things to talk about here today. So let's get on with that then. Okay, one thing I wanted to talk about here, this is the No Speed Limit Quebec Metal 1964 to 1989. Yeah, so this was originally all done up in French, and it was finally translated to English. It was made available, let's see, it's on Quartz here, but I think it was through Mystery Temple Records, which also released Freeway's album, and I think 1 or 2 other albums that I talked about last year. They had this on their website anyway, so there were only 350 copies in English, so I managed to get a hold of one. It does say 1964, but I'm telling you right now that the first 10 years is just basically one page telling about, might be more than one page, but telling about what was going on in the rock scene in Quebec at the time. And it's actually not just metal, it covers shock rock, glam rock, punk rock, and whatever was going on in the music scene in Quebec leading up to the metal scene. Now, apparently when the authors were originally putting this together, they were originally thinking to cover like later years as well. However, it turned out that one of the guys just had so much documentation he pulled up on the 70s and 80s, so they decided to take it up to 1989, which is, I think, the year that Voivod's Nothing Face was released. I have not started reading the book yet. It's quite, there's a lot of reading to do, a lot of photos in here as well, but yeah. And the reason why I haven't got to reading this yet is because I am still trying to finish this book, and I have stopped reading this one for the time being because I am trying to read through all of these, the Demon Slayer manga series in Japanese. Once I'm finished those, I'll get back to Rob and this one here. But I thought I'd mention this anyway. Of course, artwork here by Away of Voivod, Quebec Metal, a book all about Quebec Metal. And I believe there's talk about doing a 90s edition and then maybe another one of more recent stuff as well. So that's pretty cool. Okay, still, like I said, the Moose, the Maple Leaf, we're still talking about Canadian metal. I picked up from, I talked about this in another video about a bunch of CDs I got from a store out of Quebec on Discogs. And one band, a Vancouver band called Scissortooth, this album impressed me more than the others. They were all really cool. Actually, one of them was a French band. But anyway, they were all really cool, but this one really stood out for me. And what I found interesting was that it seems to cross between progressive metal and maybe stoner rock, kind of moves in between the two. And there are moments on here where the band almost sound like Tool in places. So They have these like, odd time signatures and the strange drumming and so on that comes in there. But it's not just that, just the actual sound of the music. It goes like in a Tool direction for a bit and then moves away again. I thought it was a really cool album, and I actually found them on Facebook and sent them a message to say, hey, I really liked your album. It is a few years old now. I think it was 2015. And according to the response I got from the band, they haven't been doing anything recently. They do have one older album out. This one is called Novagomorrah. If you can get a hold of it, you should, or at least give it a listen. It's on YouTube, and I don't know if it's on Spotify as well. But anyway, I have sent a message to the band again asking permission to play a little bit of music from this album. However, I haven't received the response yet. So if I don't receive the response by the time I'm putting the final bits of this video together, I might not be able to feature any music. But once again, Scissortooth, Novagomorrah, you can find this on YouTube and probably also out there on Spotify or something as well. It is worth checking out. A pretty cool stuff from a band out of Vancouver who will hopefully be active again. Okay, moving on. So you'll see I am wearing a t-shirt in darkness. Here's an interesting thing. Last year when I was doing my quest for Canadian metal, one band that I found while searching for bands out of Saskatchewan was a band based in Regina called In Darkness. I went to their website, I listened to a video, I watched a video, I listened to the music a bit, and I thought, okay, these guys sound pretty cool, I'm going to order one of their albums. And then when I tried to, it said it doesn't ship to Japan. So I thought, bummer. Well, anyway, and I went and I found lots of other really cool bands. But a couple of months back, somebody left a comment on one of my videos here on the Music is a Journey channel, and the comment was from In Darkness. They said, yeah, we're a rock band out of Regina. I was like, yeah, I know who you are. I checked out your music. I wanted to buy one of your albums, and I couldn't. And so I sent them a message, and they said, yeah, well, we'll fix that. Give us your address. So what they did, most generously, was In Darkness sent me both of their albums. The debut album is called My Hatred on Display. It goes back to 2012, actually. And then more recently is Waters Above, which is 2018. Anyway, the band is still active. Of course, they're having a difficult time of playing these days, thanks to some particular virus. But anyway, they are still active out there, so that's cool. So, In Darkness. Yeah, I want to read to you now what I got in an email message from Corey Sachin, one of the members of the band. This is what he had to say after I sent him my initial impression remarks of these two albums. Here's what he said. It seems like everyone hears something a little bit different in our music, and that is always fun to hear about. Over the years, we've heard comparisons that range anywhere from Tool, Metallica, Pantera, Rage Against the Machine, Korn, Gobsmack, Pearl Jam, Sepultura, and now Tourniquet. Because I said the lead vocalist, when he sang with the gruffer vocals, it sounded like Luke Easter, who sang on a couple or a few Tourniquet albums back in the 90s. It's good to know that we're not stuck in a musical box. Haha. Our first album was recorded with pretty much bare minimum tools and cost, and is definitely a little more raw and unpolished. We also recorded with a different bass player at the time. Our second album was recorded in a professional studio in just under 5 days, from the first warm-up to the last vocal track. We also wrote the song 9 during the last 2 days in the studio. The guys were warming up one morning and we liked the sound, so we decided to hit record. I ended up having to write the lyrics for that one while I was doing all my other vocal tracks. All in all, it was a wild ride recording Waters Above. We have always made a point with our music to keep it raw and real, and have mostly stayed away from doing anything in the studio that we can't do live. After working in the studio a bit, we really started to hear the over-tracking and over-production in a lot of music, and we have tried to steer clear of that overproduced sound. I think that's part of what gives us that older or 90s kind of sound, and that's the way we like it. At the end of the day, it just seems to us that we should sound just as good, if not better live, than on our album. So, that response was to my comment saying that I felt there was a strong 90s feel to the music, especially the first album. I couldn't be sure if I was hearing a heavy alternative band or alternative metal band, or if I was hearing a grunge band. It seemed to keep shifting from, one impression to the other. And then there is some pretty wild drumming on here, like some pretty weird rhythms coming in, like the song will kind of suddenly lurch and slow back again, and lurch forward and slow back again, and it's like gives you a weird feel to it anyway. So I think there's because they experiment with the rhythm or the time signatures or whatever, there is that kind of progressive feel in parts as well, although I wouldn't go and call them a progressive band exactly. But let's just look at those two CDs again, In Darkness, and I really gotta say they're very cool. From what I heard, I think they're quite unique for the present day, in my listening experience, based on all the bands I picked up recently in the last year or so. So what I'd like to do now is to play a sample of something. You gotta hear this vocal thing though. Listen to this bit right now from the My Hatred on Display album. Check this out. That is some power, eh? That's pretty cool. So yeah, now let's listen to just a little bit of sample from music from My Hatred on Display, and then I'll also pick a little bit to hear from Waters Above. You can find In Darkness out there. You gotta be careful though, because there are a couple of movies with the same title, and a lot of people use In Darkness in album titles, but they are out there. Search for In Darkness, Waters Above, and In Darkness, My Hatred on Display, or In Darkness, Band Regina. Something like that. Okay, let's get on with listening to that music sample now. I hear from you, it's breaking my life in two. Now you believe there's nothing left in me. Nothing left in me. Nothing left in me. Chosen to be rid of what is real. Could you give your... There can be no truth in this world when all we get was taken down, our fellow man, and it's over before it begins. Free us from ourselves, free us from ourselves. We let it slip, we lost control of everything that we got forever. We should hope forever. Spin me to yourself, one upon your frail skin. A simple little pleasure was denied. Just grab the last one. Okay, that concludes this short episode. Short enough that it is not an officially numbered episode. That is still yet to come. My condolences go out to Phil Naro's family and to all the people who worked with him and were close to him. Again, it is really unfortunate, very sad that he passed away again too young because of cancer. But yeah, what can you do? anyway, he left us with a lot of great music, a lot of great vocal tracks on different albums. Yeah, and there you have it. So please check out the band in Darkness, check out Scissortooth. If you can, see if you can get a hold of this Quebec Metal book. And I'm going to be back with a proper episode, really, I promise, episode 40. And we're going to talk about Diminished Fifth Records, who worked out of Dartmouth in Nova Scotia for several years and released a lot of really cool bands as well. So we'll talk about that in episode 40 coming up. For now, thank you for watching. Everybody stay clear of the virus if you can. Stay happy, stay healthy, enjoy music. See you in episode 40.